There are some teams that are cursed. Tottenham obviously was a famous side, but there are plenty of clubs like this. There's also the fun phenomenon that basically most football fans, part of the experience, part of the process, is believing that your team is one of these teams. I see it all the time. Right? I see fans of some of the biggest clubs in the world think the refs are out to get them. You ever talk to a Real Madrid fan? Yeah. They'll try and tell you that their club, well, maybe they wouldn't use the word cursed because that's an impossible argument. The refs are out to get them. The world hates them. Something bad is happening, right? Every fan of every club thinks that they are getting screwed. The good old days are behind them. And then every once in a while when your team scores and wins a match, you actually believe that the good old days are here. And then you're cursed again. Well, this is one of those teams that's cursed, actually, not hypothetically. And it's one that you might not know about. It's one of the better intros that's ever existed on this channel. Anyways, it's the South African national team. You might remember them for, hosting the World Cup in 2010, scoring the best opening goal of a World Cup ever. I don't know that for sure, but I do at the same time. And then just disappearing. If you only pay attention to international football at the actual World Cup, you would have not heard of them again. They also haven't made miraculous runs at the Africa Cup of Nations. They have sustained and been good. But the real reason that they have not made it to the World Cup is tomfoolery. Nonsense. Just random bullshit that has managed to knock them out. And it is threatening them once again. That is the issue we have at hand today, is the latest, greatest fumble of the bag by the South African national team. A national team that, at this point, is clearly good enough to go to the World Cup. It should be going to the World Cup. And yet, it very likely just found a way to fucking not do that. But I rewind to 4 years ago, where South Africa was denied a spot in the World Cup by a mystery penalty call. At the very best, a disgustingly bad penalty call. One that even when I am trying to totally explain the ref's point of view here, I still don't understand how exactly you give this. This led to headlines like FIFA dismisses South Africa's replay appeal. South Africa was so mad about this penalty that they did appeal it and were rejected by FIFA multiple times. They were appealing up until right before the World Cup to try and have this match replayed. Now, it wasn't the final match. It wasn't the match that if they won, they went to the World Cup. But what happened was the group came down to one match against Ghana. And then this happened. All South Africa had to do was not lose. And then in the 31st minute, we had this. A set piece, a hand, maybe on a shoulder, a guy falls down, and the ref does give that as a penalty. After which Ghana goes on to win 1-0 in a match again that if South Africa does not lose, it goes to the playoff. In the playoff, Ghana, of course, did end up at the World Cup. They beat Nigeria, thanks in large part because Nigeria's hands are made of Swiss cheese, apparently. Right, but South Africa is better than Ghana. They were then, and they probably are now. They dominated Ghana in this match. At the very least, it's impossible to argue with the fact that they did marginally outplay them, even if you're a Ghana fan. But from a South African fan's point of view, they dominated this match. Although they managed to give up a penalty in the 31st minute by placing a hand, as a caring friend on the shoulder of a player. I'll give you that one more time. If I was a South African fan, I wouldn't even know what to do with myself here. There is, of course, another angle to this, nice and slow motion, so you can really enjoy the fact that the guy is almost certainly already falling over before he's even touched. Ghana backs its way into the World Cup from there and then ends up actually being pretty good by the time they get to the World Cup. This is the match, in large part, then in beating Nigeria afterwards that allowed them to get somebody like Iñaki Williams to say, yeah, I'll play for the Ghanaian national team. A decision that I bet he's enjoying. But this is how South Africa managed to miss the last World Cup. They were the better team, and they blew it. They got screwed, really. I mean, this is just being cursed. So what's happening now? Well, I'll leave the athletics titling experts to explain that to you. South Africa hit with World Cup blow as FIFA docks points for fielding an ineligible player. Now, we have run into ineligible player situations before. This has nothing to do with players being eligible for the South African national team. In fact, the guy that is ineligible for this match that he happened to play in is somebody that has played a bunch for South Africa. He's one of South Africa's best players. His name is Teboho Mokoena. I know him because I've had him in Football Manager before. This dude is good. And it, like I said, is a key player for the South African national team, which makes it even more befuddling why they're getting docked, what is 3 points, for fielding him as an ineligible player. What is the only thing that can make a player who is very obviously born and raised in South Africa ineligible? Yellow cards. You fucking kidding me? It's yellow cards. He got 2 yellow cards, which is supposed to suspend him for the next match. Like he had a yellow card accumulation. And then they just played him anyways. He had accumulated 2 yellow cards in the previous qualifying games against Benin in 2023 and Zimbabwe in June of 2024, and therefore should have been ineligible for South Africa's game against Lesotho. Fucking Lesotho, a country that is quite literally surrounded by South Africa. This is a layup. This isn't Nigeria. South Africa could probably roll out its C team and be the favorite. Now, Lesotho at this point in qualifying, and there's no reason I should know this, but I do, was actually pretty dangerous. They had managed to somehow take the points from Nigeria. Nobody really knew what the fuck happened there, but that had put Lesotho in a pretty good position in the group pretty early on, which meant South Africa maybe got super nervous dealing with this match against a team that they definitely can't lose to, and they beat them while playing Teboho Mokoena for 82 minutes. I'm sorry. If this happens to the Cook Islands, a national team made up of, even on the staff side, basically volunteers, there's some leeway there. South Africa is a top 50 national team in the world. Guys like Teboho Mokoena are making millions to play this game. Right? This is a team. This is a high-level team from a nation that is organized enough to have hosted the World Cup. And you're telling me there is no one in that FA that is keeping track of who is suspended for yellow card accumulation. Because remember the stakes here. If you play when you're supposed to be suspended, you forfeit the fucking game. That's 3 points to Lesotho and a 3-0 loss for South Africa. That just happened. September 29th. South Africa's been docked those 3 points. And they were comfortably ahead of the group. Now they're not even in first. Because I don't understand how this happens in like an actually high-level national team. Because the stakes could not be higher. I mean, for a club team, there's more games. Right? There's a lot more matches, which complicates a couple of things. One, keeping track of the yellow cards. And two, it's not as important if you have to forfeit 3 points. How many times do you hear about club teams accidentally playing the wrong player? I mean, you literally just have to have a piece of paper on the wall in your office and just go, you got a yellow card. Come back and look at it 6 months later when you come back for the next qualifying. He can't play. Darn. Let's go get the other guy that's going to allow us to comfortably beat Lesotho. Or uncomfortably. But, I mean, South Africa cannot lose this game. Or else I'm pretty sure they have to, seed some little road to Lesotho that allows them to leave and not be trapped by South Africa completely. I'm pretty sure that's the deal. That's how that works. This is mind-boggling. It is mind-blowing. And it's a shut and dry case. The only argument South Africa had, because they're appealing this, is that Lesotho didn't report it in time. The idea that Lesotho didn't file the paperwork in time. Who cares? You broke one of the most obvious rules in the game, which is suspension through cards. I mean, it's 101. This isn't Equatorial Guinea trying to figure out if the paperwork was filed appropriately for their captain to still be playing, even though he played for 11 years, and you got to blow the dust off filing cabinets to figure shit out. This is obvious. Why is there a statute of limitations on filing this? I mean, obviously there should be one if the whole World Cup happens, you can't come back and file this and change the whole table. But I mean, if you figure it out and then you file it while the group is still going on, there's nothing you can do. Now, South Africa's appealing anyways. But ESPN did a funny thing where they literally just brought in this guy named Raymond Hack, who used to be the leader of the South African FA. And he says there's no chance the point deduction will be overturned. And for all the reasons that I'm talking about, which I'm kind of echoing him because I read this article, right? There's no leeway here, right? Saying, well, Lesotho took too long to file it. Yeah, the game was in March, right? The game against Lesotho was in March. It's now been flipped to a 3-0 win for Lesotho, which, by the way, does not let Lesotho back in. They went from 6 points to 9 points, which is, even if they win their last 2 matches now, they're going to be on 15, which is not going to be enough to get them to the World Cup. It's just not going to work. So they could have used those points earlier for belief, right? Because Lesotho was in it for a little while, but they've kind of gone on a losing streak since they had that hot start. Now, this actually really helps out a random team, Benin. Not a country you probably figured was particularly close to qualifying for the World Cup. Well, now they're in first. They are in first place in a group that if you win, you go straight to the World Cup. Now, granted, they are in first place by literally 1 on the goal difference, and the schedules that are left could make things difficult for Benin. But this is, dancing in the streets awesome. Because you had a team in South Africa that was 3 points clear with a solid goal difference cushion that has now been completely reversed and thrown them into second place. South Africa now has to make up those 2 spots. And they have at Zimbabwe, which going on the road against literally anyone except for Seychelles in Africa is tough. You see everybody drop points on the road in Africa, except for Seychelles. They are like another level of bad. They're like San Marino in Africa. And then they're at home against Rwanda. And you might think, gee, Rwanda, easy one. Rwanda has been really weirdly competitive. They have only lost 3 of the 8 matches they have played. And they have been a real thorn in the side for just about everybody in this group at one point or another. Not to mention the fact that Rwanda does have, as I like to say, a snowball's chance in hell of making the World Cup if it wins its last 2 matches. They are haram ball football terrorists. They have only scored 5 goals in 8 matches, but they find a way because they've only allowed 5 goals in 8 matches. So that is going to be uncomfortable. South Africa likely needs to win both of those matches. And it's not necessarily because of Benin, who has to go to Rwanda, which again could be annoying, and then they have to go to Nigeria. Yeah, they're in this group. Just in case you didn't clock that in the standings, the happiest team after this is Nigeria, because Nigeria at least has a shot at second place now. Now, if they get second on 17 points, they're still probably screwed. I've done the math on the second place table. It doesn't look good for Nigeria, even if they get there. Right now, the threshold is 15 points. So assuming you get 4 teams from this group that win one of their last 2 games, and keep in mind all these teams are second place in their group right now, and one of them might be playing Seychelles, then Nigeria can't make it as a second place team. You have to be a top 4 second place team, and Nigeria is just not going to get that. So what they need is to win their last 2 matches, obviously, and they have Lesotho and Benin, and they're at home for both of those games. If they win both of them, they're on 17 points. They're probably going to need to win them by a couple of goals to get a nice juicy goal difference, which is going to be a problem because they're averaging about a goal per game. They have been super ass in World Cup qualifying up to this point. But if South Africa does fumble, which, let's be honest, kind of what they do. If they draw at Zimbabwe, go into the last match against Rwanda all nervous and draw that match too. If they lose at Zimbabwe or at home against Rwanda with now, you know what's worse than gradual pressure? Surprise pressure. They were coming out of their last international window feeling hot as hell. They just drew Nigeria to basically end the group. They were 3 points clear of Benin with a super easy run in. They had a lot of runway. Now they don't. They have none. They have to win their last 2 matches to be comfortable at all. And then that's assuming Benin doesn't go supernova and actually win, which Nigeria, again, has been ass. Benin could win its last 2 games. They'll be favorites against Rwanda. And at Nigeria has been way friendlier than it should be. If Benin wins its last 2 games, South Africa's got to put up numbers. And as we've been over, Rwanda's not an easy team to put up numbers against. Nobody can score against them. And at Zimbabwe, who the hell knows what's going to happen in that match? Zimbabwe is usually a pretty decent team. I don't know what happened to them in this group. This group has been weird from the moment it started. You've got Lesotho and Rwanda being relevant. Benin's now on top of the group. Zimbabwe, a team that's pretty comfortable making the Africa Cup of Nations, has been the punching bag somehow. But they also haven't because they've drawn half their matches, which, alarm bells, they just haven't won, right? But they don't need to win to screw South Africa. So Nigeria, Benin, and South Africa are now in a throuple, and we're going to have to figure out what's going on. Of course, until Rwanda wins their last two matches and blows this whole thing up and wins the group, which is also somehow possible. It is 100% possible for Rwanda to go to the World Cup thanks to South Africa's administrative error. And that would be the funniest possible thing. Our throuple would be very sad if that happened. But this is going to be complete chaos, and it happens next month. This month, actually. If we look at the fixtures, it's October 10th and October 14th are the two match days for South Africa. So we're going to settle this pretty quickly. They got this point change in like 10 days before they needed to. But now it's in. Surprise pressure for South Africa, and they found a way to somehow turn a win into a loss and to somehow turn a comfortable group that includes a stunningly terrible Nigeria into a very intriguing last two matches that I will be glued to personally.